Good evening, guys. So what we discussed in the last session? We discussed about what is unit testing. Okay. So can you tell me what is unit testing? What is unit testing, guys? The process of testing individual components of our application is called as unit testing. Okay. So in the last session, we discussed about what is JUnit, why we need to go for JUnit, what is isolated unit testing, and what is mocking, and what is code coverage. Theoretically, we understood these topics. Now, we need to implement this unit testing for our applications, right? JUnit is a free and open source Java based framework. This is used for Java projects unit testing. What is the meaning of unit testing? Testing individual components of the application is called as unit testing. Unit testing is mainly used to identify whether our application code is working as expected or not, right? And by using this unit testing, we can identify bugs available in the code. With the help of this unit testing, we can identify the bugs at the early stage only before giving to the testing team. So by performing this unit testing, we can provide quality code to higher environments. Then what is isolated unit testing? Controller methods, when we are developing any application, one class method will be dependent on another class method. So here Java class is available, another Java class is available. So let me say class A wants to communicate with class B. Class A is available, wants to communicate with the class B. This is dependency. Now, when you call class A method, internally it will call class B method. When you call the class A method, internally it is going to call the class B method. You got my point? Now, so here, but when you are performing unit testing, I want to test only this method. I want to test only this method. When I am testing this method, it is going to call this B class method, right? We should not call it. So that is called isolated unit testing. To perform that isolated unit testing, instead of calling to the real B, we are going to create one mock B. We are going to create one mock B. So what is the benefit with this mock B? Class A will talk to mock B for unit testing. Okay. So whatever the output we are getting from the B class method, same output we will give from the mock object. So what is the benefit? Only class A logic will be executed. As the class A is dependent on the class B, it will not talk to the real class B. It is going to talk to the mock class object. So this is called mocking. The process of creating substitute object for the real object is called mocking. The process of creating substitute object for the real object is called mocking. Why we will do this mocking in the project? What is the benefit of doing this mocking in the project? Come on. Mocking we will do for isolated unit testing. I want to test my methods independently. So to test my methods independently, we are going to use this mocking with a isolated unit testing concept. And another important thing is code coverage. When you are performing the unit testing, code coverage is required. What is the benefit of code coverage, guys? First of all, what is the code coverage and why should we go for the code coverage? What is code coverage and why should we go for the code coverage? Come on. Code coverage is used to identify how many lines of code is unit tested and how many lines of code is missed in the unit testing. Industry standard is minimum 80% code coverage for the project. Okay. So to get this code coverage report, we are going to use Jacoco plugin. To get the code coverage report, we are going to use Jacoco plugin. Are you able to follow this? Now, let me create one Java project. Let me create one Java project to perform unit testing by using JUnit. Okay, file Spring Starter project. I'm going to create one Spring Boot application 07 Spring Boot unit test application. Spring Boot unit test application, Maven as a build tool, group ID something like in.ashok.it, and package default package also we are using as in.ashok.it. Click on next. I'm going to select web starter. Okay, I'm going to select a web starter. Click on next here, click on finish. Right, the project is getting created. The project is getting created. Yes, now go to pom.xml. Once the project is created, boot version 3.2.3 is available, Java version 17, web starter is available, and test starter is also available. Web starter is available and test starter. This test starter will give you JUnit by default. Okay, so to perform unit testing in the boot application, by default, test starter will be added. Even though we are not adding that test starter, by default, it is coming for our application now. So unit testing with the Spring Boot. Spring Boot unit testing for boot application. In the boot application, we will have test starter to perform unit testing. Spring Boot provided test starter. Spring Boot provided Spring Boot starter test dependency to perform unit testing. So this dependency will be added by default. I have selected only web starter, but I'm getting test starter also. This dependency will be added by default when we create boot application. Okay, when we create boot application, by default this test dependency will be added now. So here, in order to perform unit testing, first let me create one Java class, guys. New class. Let me create a class with a name called beans. I'm writing a class with a name called calculator. Calculator class is available. Now inside this calculator, I'm writing one method, public integer add method, integer I comma integer j. Okay, now I'm going to return I plus j. Assume that this is my dummy method. This is my dummy method. I want to perform unit testing for this method. So it is taking two numbers as a input, and I want to get those two numbers sum as a output. So what is my input? What is input? What is output? Am I getting expected output or not? I want to test it now. So this is a normal Java class, which is a calculator class, guys. Right. Now let us go to test Java. Test Java application test class is available. Here we are going to create one class with a name called calculator test. What is that, guys? We are going to use calculator test here. So this is my test class. Inside this I will write tester add method or add method tester. Okay, so if you observe, calculator class is my target class. Wherever methods available, those methods, that class which contains business logic, that class is called our target class. So that a target class I want to test. For that I'm taking one test class now. So this is our target class and this is our test class. Inside the test class, what I will do? I will create the object calculator C is equal to new calculator. Calculator C is equal to new calculator. I'm going to call this object, create the object C dot add method. I'm passing 10 comma 20 as the input for the method, which is returning sum as a result, which is actual result. This is the actual result. Now, I want to verify this method is working as expected or not. To verify this method is working as expected or not, we are going to use asset equals expected result comma actual result. Asset equals I am expecting 30 as a output. Is this method giving the actual result is matching with the expected result or not? So we are using asset methods to verify this method, the result which is coming, is it matching with 30 or not? So if this actual result is matching with I'm passing 10 comma 20 for the add method. So I'm expecting 30 as a output. I'm expecting 30 as a output. Okay. If expected result is matching with actual result, then the test case is pass. Otherwise, test case is fail. So this is one test case. This is one test case. To represent this as a test case, we are going to use one annotation called @test annotation. From where I am getting @test annotation? From the JUnit, I am getting the test annotation. So what is the purpose of @test here? The purpose of @test to represent it is a JUnit method. It is a JUnit method. Inside this JUnit method, we are going to verify the expected result is matching with the actual result or not. We are going to verify expected result is matching with the actual result or not. So to verify the results, we are using assert methods. 30 is my expected value. What is the actual value? It will compare. If this comparison is successful, that test is passed. Otherwise, test is failed. Now, so let me go and run this. Run as JUnit test. What is the option we are getting? Run as JUnit test. Now, when I execute that test, can you see the result? Green color bar is coming. That means unit testing is successful. Unit testing is successful. Add test. For example, if I am saying the result is I'm expecting 130 and what is the actual result? Run as JUnit test. This time what it is saying, red color, failed. Why it is failed? Expected 130 but actual is 30 only. So like this we are going to perform unit testing for the methods and we are going to verify the expected results are matching with the actual results or not. How do we verify expected results are matching with the actual results or not? By using assertions. Assertions are used to match the expected value with the actual value. If expected value matching with the actual value, then that is successfully tested. That method is successfully tested. Otherwise, that method is not successfully tested. Are you able to follow this? Now, so tell me, what is the purpose of @test annotation? What is the purpose of @test annotation? Come on, guys. @test annotation is used to represent our method as a unit test method. What is assertions in the Java? What is the meaning of assertions in the Java? JUnit assertions are used to validate the test result. So expected result, actual result. What method is giving? What we are expecting. If expected result matching with the actual result, it is pass. Otherwise, it is failure. Okay. Similarly, let me write one more method here. Public multiplication now. Integer I comma integer j, I minus j. So there are like this in our target class, multiple methods will be available. Inside the target class, multiple methods will be available. Now here, let me write one more test method, public void multiplication test method. Multiplication test method. Let us create the calculator object and c dot multiply 100 comma 50. 100 comma 50. What that method is going to return? Is it multiply or what? So multiply I multiplied by j. Okay. Now multiplication, actual result I am getting. Actual result I am getting. How do we verify it is working as expected or not? We are going to use asset equals expected. Okay. 10 into 50. Now I am expecting the result as 500 and here actual result is available. Here actual result is available. So this is normal Java method. Now you observe when I am running my calculator test, run as JUnit test. How many test cases executed? How many test cases executed now? Both test cases executed or only one test case is executed? Only one test case is executed. Why only one test case is executed? Why only one test case is executed? Because only one method is having at the rate test annotation. Only one method is having at the rate test annotation. So how to represent this also as a test method? By using at the rate test annotation. Now, so in my class, there are two test methods available. In my class, there are two test methods available. Right click, run as JUnit test. Now you can see two test methods executed and both are executed successfully. So like this, for every target method, we are going to perform unit testing like this. For every target method, we are going to perform unit testing like this. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with this point? Yes. So with this, we understood one concept. What is at the rate test annotation and what is assert method. Assert methods, these are static imports, guys. There is a class called assertions class is available. In that static methods available. So directly we are calling static method by using static import. So this is basic how we are going to perform unit testing. Now, we need to perform unit testing for the REST API with the help of mocking. We need to perform the unit testing for the REST API with the help of mocking. What is mocking? What is mocking? Creating substitute object for the real object is called mocking. Good. Now let me go and create one REST controller here. New class. First let me create a service. I'm creating one service class, message service. Okay. Public string get welcome message. Okay. String message is equal to something like this. Now, this is my real service method, which is going to return a message. This is my real service. Now, I'm going to use at the rate service annotation. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that? So this is a service class. I'm representing as a service class. For that, I'm using one annotation called at the rate service annotation. I'm using service annotation. All right. Next one. Let me create one REST controller. New class dot REST. Okay. Message REST controller. To represent this class as a REST controller, I'm using @REST controller annotation. Inside this REST controller annotation, I'm going to inject my message service. We are injecting by using @auto wiring. We are injecting this by using @auto wiring. Wired. Auto void. Let me write one method. Public string welcome message. How it will get that? Service dot get welcome message. Service dot get welcome message. And finally, it is going to return welcome message. This method I'm mapping to get request @get mapping / welcome. That's it. So what is the meaning of this, guys? What is the meaning of this? I have created one REST controller class. I have created one REST controller class. Here we are having message service. Inside the REST controller, we are injecting message service by using auto void annotation. Inside the REST controller, there is a get request method available that is calling our service method. Now, let me change our application port number server.port, which is 9090. Server.port 9090. Okay, refresh it. Run as boot application. Run as Spring Boot application. Now, application started. Go to browser, localhost :9090/welcome. I'm able to test my application. This is a normal testing. Okay. I'm sending the request to REST controller method. The REST controller method calling service method. Service method is returning some output. My REST controller method returning the same output. Now, I want to perform unit testing for the REST controller. I want to perform unit testing for my REST controller. Are you able to follow this? Now, when I am going to test REST controller method, REST controller is dependent on the service method. When I send a request to REST controller method, internally it is calling our service method. When I send a request to REST controller method, internally it is calling our service method. Are you able to follow this? Now, so here I need to perform isolated testing. I need to perform isolated testing. What is the meaning of isolated testing? Only REST controller logic should be tested. REST controller should not talk to service. So here we need to create the mock object for the service. Always for the dependent objects, mocking will be available. Now, first you need to decide. When you are going for unit testing, guys, first you need to decide what is your target. That means which class you need to test first. What is your target? First you need to decide the target class. Once your target is decided, then you need to identify what are the dependents of that target. For those dependents, we need to create the mock object. Are you able to follow me? So what we need to do in the unit testing? What is the first step that we need to do in the unit testing? Identify our target. Identify our target. Now my target is REST controller. Now my target is REST controller. But REST controller is independent or REST controller is dependent now? Independent or dependent? On which class it is dependent? It is dependent on the service class. My REST controller is dependent on the service class. So we need to identify the dependent object. For the dependent objects, we need to create the mock object. Okay. Now, if you see, my application is executing like this. Message REST controller is available. This message REST controller is depends on message service. Message REST controller is dependent on message service. But I want to perform unit testing for only REST controller. Then what is required? We need to create the mock object for the service. That mock object we need to inject into REST controller. So here mock is required. Here mock is required. So with the help of this mock, I can test only my REST controller. When the REST controller wants to talk to the service, it will not talk to the real service. It will talk to the mock service. So with this mock service, we are going to achieve isolated unit testing. With this mocking, we will achieve isolated unit. You need to test only target logic. That a target is having some dependent. Forget about them. We don't want to talk to the dependents. Our target is REST controller. Execute only REST controller logic as part of unit testing. After that, separately we will write the test cases for only service. When we are testing service, only service logic will be tested. My service is dependent on the repository. Then for repository mock will be created. Mock repository will be injected to service. So this is how we will do the unit testing in the real time. Always unit testing will happen with the mock object only. What is the meaning of mock? Come on. What is the meaning of a mock? The process of creating substitute object for the real object is called mock object. Is this clear? Good. Now, I want to test this REST controller. This REST controller is dependent on the service. So I'm going to create mock for the service. That mock I will inject into my REST controller. Are you able to follow this? Now, go to here. New class. Message REST controller test class will be available. This is used for testing REST controller. Okay. So it is going to test our REST controller. So for that, I will be writing @spring @web MVC test. @web MVC test, the controllers is equal to which one? I'm going to test message REST controller dot class. What is the annotation I'm writing? @web MVC test annotation I'm writing. So this is this class. This test class is used to test our message REST controller. So message REST controller is independent or message REST controller is dependent. Message REST controller is dependent or independent? Independent or dependent? Dependent. On which class it is dependent? Service class. Message service class. So we are going to inject real service here, or we are going to inject mock service here. Mock service here. So this one message service class is available. For this class, mock object should be created. That mock object should be injected into this REST controller in the unit testing. Now, if my REST controller is executed, real service should be injected. As part of unit testing, mock service should be injected. To inject mock service, to create the mock object, we will use one annotation called mock bean annotation. What is the annotation, guys? @ mock bean annotation. What is the purpose of @mock bean, which is used to create the mock object for the REST controller and inject that mock object into our, create the mock object for the service and inject that mock object into the REST controller in the unit testing. If the application is normally executing, auto wiring is available for the real service. But when the unit testing is happening in this REST controller, message service will be injected as a mock object. Sir, what is the proof? Before calling this service method, let me print service dot get class dot get name. What is the meaning of get class dot get name? What is the meaning of get class dot get name? That variable is holding which class object we can print it. Okay, that variable is holding which class object we can print it by using get class dot get name method. Get class dot get name method we are using to print that object. Are you able to follow this? Good. Public class message REST controller, we are having message service and welcome message method is available. Now system.out.println service.getClass.getName method is available. Fine. Here, once it is done, I'm going to inject one more class which is called mock MVC. Okay, there is another class called mock MVC class is available. So if you see, there are three annotations I'm using. One is @webMVC test annotation. Another one is mock bean annotation. Third one is auto wiring annotation. What is the meaning of auto wiring? Dependency injection. Inside this test class, I want to inject mock MVC. Now, public void test welcome message. I want to test my welcome message method. To test this welcome message method, I need to, so generally, if it is a normal class, I will create the object for the class. I will call the method. But for the REST controllers, testing means we need to send the request for this method. We need to get the response. Are you going to test the REST controller by creating the object by calling the method? No. So normal methods, we will create the object, we will call the methods. But when it comes to REST controller, we need to send HTTP GET request for this method. From the test class, I will send that GET request. Normally, you will send the request from the browser or you will send the request from the postman. If you send the request from browser or postman, real service method will be called. But I want to perform unit testing. In the unit testing, we are going to do mocking. Mock object is creating for the service. Mock service will be injected into the REST controller with the help of this annotation. Now, I'm taking one more class called mock MVC class is available. The purpose of mock MVC, to test the REST API using HTTP request. I need to send HTTP request to the REST API. For that, I'm using mock MVC. Okay. Now, so for this, I want to represent this method as a test method. How to represent this as a test method? By using @test annotation. Now, so here we need to create the request builders, mock MVC request builders dot get slash welcome, mock MVC request builder dot slash welcome dot build request. Mock MVC request builder dot welcome, we are getting request builder object. Okay, once we get the request builder object, mock MVC dot perform request builder dot and return. Okay, now which is going to return MVC result. Now, MVC result dot get response. Okay. Once I get the response from this, I'm going to store the response. Response dot get status code. Response dot get status code. Now I will use set equals. I'm expecting 200 status code as a response. If I'm getting the 200 status as a response, then it is a successful. Otherwise, it is failure. So here I have a REST controller. Inside the REST controller, I'm injecting the service. My REST controller method is dependent on the service method. So when I'm doing the testing for this REST controller, observe carefully. I will write this logic once again. I'm creating one test class for the REST controller. I want to represent this is a test class for the REST controller. For that, I'm using WebMVC test annotation. This WebMVC test annotation will represent this is test class for this REST controller. This REST controller is not independent. This REST controller is having a dependency with the service. So to inject the dependent object, I'm using mock bean. When I use a mock bean, real service will be injected or mock service will be injected. Mock service will be injected. Now, so to test this REST controller method, I need to send one HTTP request from the test class. So if you see, I told you guys, unit testing is difficult. Okay. So for freshers, it is a lot of confusing because if it is a normal Java class, directly create the object, call the method, see actual result is matching with the expected result or not. But in the real time, everything is a REST API. So this is simple REST controller I have taken, which is talking to one service class. So to test this REST controller by using unit testing, it is having a dependency with the service. For that dependency, we are creating mock object. So to create and inject, create the mock, inject the mock into REST controller. For that, what is the annotation we are using? Mock bean annotation we are using to create the mock and inject the mock. Okay. Generally, what is the meaning of auto wiring? Real object will be injected. What about the mock bean? Real object will not be injected. Mock will be created. That means substitute object will be created. That mock object will be injected into REST controller. Are you able to follow this? Anybody not able to understand? Clear or confusing? What is the purpose of @WebMVC test annotation? It is used to represent what is our target class. It is used to represent what is our target class. What is our target class? Message REST controller is our target class. Public class message REST controller is our target class. Then we are having message service class. Okay, it is a dependent. My REST controller is dependent on this service. So we are using @mock bean. We are using @mock bean for injecting that one. Okay. Then next one. What is mock MVC? Predefined class. What is the purpose of why I am doing auto wiring for the mock MVC? This is used to send HTTP request. In the normal, from the postman, we will send the request. But in the unit testing, we will use this mock MVC to send HTTP request for the REST controller. Now, so let us write one test method. How to represent our method as a test method? By using @test annotation. Okay, by using @test annotation, I'm going to write one test method. What is the requirement now? What I need to do? I need to send a GET request for this URL. I need to send a GET request for this URL. Now, go to this one. First of all, prepare a GET request. For this, mock MVC request builders dot get. I want to send a GET request. If I want to send a post request, to the method, I will use dot post method. As I want to send a get request, I'm going to use dot getter. What is the URL pattern? /welcome. That's it. This is request preparation. I want to send get request to REST controller as part of unit testing. So for this, I'm writing mock MVC request builders.get /welcome. I'm preparing a get request with the /welcome URL pattern store into a variable. Now I got my request. What request I need to send to the REST API? I got that request. To send this request, what is the class I'm using? Mock MVC. Now mock MVC dot perform. That means you send that request. Okay, when this code is executed, it will send the request, get request to the given URL. After sending the get request, you will get some response. Now it will send a request to the REST API. REST API will give response. Then return that response. You perform this request. You send the get request. You will get some response. You return the response to me. I need to validate that response. So whatever the get request I'm sending to the REST controller, is that get request is giving valid response or not? I want to validate. Okay. Now I got the response as a MVC result. I got the response as a MVC result. Now result dot get response. So whatever the result we are getting, from that we are getting a response. From the response, I'm going to now observe. I prepared the request. I want to send a get request with this URL. You send that request and you return the response, which I'm storing into result object. From the result, I'm getting the response. Once I got the response dot getter, you can verify, you can validate the content you are getting from the method, or you can verify status code we are getting in the response. Okay. So if you want to verify the content, you can take get content as a string. Whatever the response you are getting from the REST API method, you can validate that content. If you don't want to validate the content, you can simply get the status. What is the meaning of HTTP status? 200. 200 means successful. So how to verify it is 200 or not? Set equals expected value 200. Actual value is status. Actual value is status. Are you able to understand? Good. Now let me keep a breakpoint to understand how this is going to execute. Now right click, debug as JUnit test. I'm starting my debugging. Okay. Debugging is came to REST controller method. Who is sending the request to this REST controller? Programmer is sending this request, or JUnit is sending that request? JUnit is sending that request. How JUnit is sending this request? Because I have a test class method with a @test annotation. When there is a test annotation, JUnit is going to execute that method. That method is sending get request to my REST API. Right click, run as JUnit test. Now @test method is available. Request is coming to @test method. 1 minute. Application is starting. Application is terminated also. 1 minute. Right click, run as JUnit test. Not sorry. Right click, debug as JUnit test. I need to show the unit testing with the debugging. Now, okay, directly that debugger came to my test method. So what is line number 29 in this method? What is line number 29 in this method? Come on, guys. We are creating one get request with the /welcome because my REST controller is having a get method with the /welcome. F6. Then what is the line number 31? What is line number 31? We are sending the request to that method. We are sending the request to that method and we are returning the result also. Then F6. When I execute this, where the control is coming? Control is coming to the REST controller or not? Now see in this service, is it a real service bean or /0? Mock service bean is available. You see the console. You will understand with the console. Clear the console. F6. Now, so message service is available. F6. Now we are getting, what is the response? I'm calling service.getWelcome message. Real response means if real service is executed, what message I should get? Welcome to Ashok IT. But I'm getting the welcome to Ashok IT. I'm getting the null value. That means real service is executed or mock service is executed. Mock service is executed because when this unit testing is started, this auto wiring will not work. Wherever message service available, in the message service, mock service is injected. In the mock service, any logic available? No logic. If real service method is called, then we will get the message as a response. My controller is directly calling the service.get method. It will give welcome to Ashok IT. But here, when the service method is executed, what is the output we are getting? Null value. Why we are getting null value as output? Why we are getting null value as output? My REST controller not talking to real service. My REST controller talking to mock service. What is the mocking? The process of creating substitute object for the real object is called mocking. Where we will use that mocking? For unit testing. Mocking is used for unit testing. Now return. I'm going to come back here. My unit test will be successful. Why the unit test is a success? I'm verifying the status 200. By default, what is the status code will come for the get methods? 200. So I'm validating the 200 only. It is successful. Okay. Now I want to return some dummy value. When the real service is called, here we are getting null value. Is it recommended to return the null values from the methods? No. Why it is not recommended to return the null value? Null pointer exception will come. For that, what we do is, we are going to define mock object behavior. Define mock object behavior. Okay. When we are injecting mock object into the REST controller, when we call the mock object method, what should happen? My REST controller is talking to service method. Is it going to call the real service method? Is it going to call the mock service method? Mock service method. Are you getting any output from the mock service? No. But suppose, for example, if I write here logic like this, welcome message is equal to welcome message dot to uppercase. Whatever the response I'm getting from the service, I want to convert into uppercase before sending to the client. In this scenario, what will happen? Are you understanding? Are you understanding what I'm trying to explain? Yeah. So I'm calling the service method giving some response. I'm converting the response into uppercase and I'm returning the response to the client. Now I want to test this method. I want to perform unit testing for this method. Now right click, debug as JUnit tester. Okay, we came to our REST controller method. What is line number 31 doing here? What is line number 31 doing? We are creating get request with a /welcome as a URL pattern. F6. What is the line number 33 doing? What is line number 33 doing now? Mock MVC dot perform request and return. What is the meaning of a mock MVC dot perform? Send the request to the given get request URL pattern. When I execute line number 33, control request will go to REST controller. In the REST controller, there is a breakpoint. Now, if you see, what is this? Is it a real service or is it a mock service? Mock service. Is there any behavior for the mock service? No behavior for the mock service. So now service.getWelcome message. Here, real service is injected or mock service is injected? mock service. How the mock service injected? Because of mock bean. Now, so F6. What I am getting as a response? Now, if the real service is called, we will get the welcome to Ashok IT. I'm not getting that. That is the proof to say that mock object is injected. So when I call this method, if I'm getting the response as welcome to Ashok IT, that means the real service object is injected, but I'm getting a null value. That means mock service method is called. So when the application is normally when the application is executing, real service will be injected. When the application is executing in the unit testing mode, mock service will be injected. That is real-time unit testing. So in the real time, unit testing will happen like this with the mock objects. This is called isolated unit testing. Sir, I will test my REST API in the browser. I will get the REST. That is integration testing. You are sending the request to REST controller calling the service will call repository will talk to database. That is called integration testing. Now I am going for unit testing. Okay, unit testing means particular method only we have to test. If that method is dependent on the another method, are we going to call the real method? No, we need to create the mock object and we need to test it. That is real-time unit testing. It is difficult. Lot of people are struggling with the unit testing in the companies also. Writing the normal logic is very easy, but writing unit testing logic is difficult. And the industry standard, 80% of coverage is required. If you write 100 lines of code, 80 lines should be tested by using JUnit. Then only your code will be accepted. Otherwise, your code will not be accepted. Are you getting my point? Perfect. Now, so go here. I'm calling service.method. Tell me what is happening in the line number 20. What is happening in the line number 20 when I do the unit testing? If I test it from the browser, if I test this method from the browser, then what will happen? Real service method will be called. I will get welcome to Ashok IT as a message. But if I am running in the JUnit mode, if I am executing as unit test, mock method is calling. What is the response I am getting from the mock method? Null. Null dot operation. What will happen? We are going to get the null pointer exception in our application. Now it is failed because of null pointer except. My unit testing is not completed successfully because of null pointer exception. Why we are getting this null pointer exception here? What is the reason to get the null pointer exception? What is the reason for the null pointer exception? Mock service method returning null value. I'm doing that value to perform some other operation. Because of that value, I'm getting null value. As I do some operation on the null value, we are going to get the null pointer exception. How to avoid this problem? How to avoid this problem? If I do null check, this line will execute or will not execute. Then there is no use of unit testing, right? If I'm doing a null check here, if that object is null, this line, what is the main purpose of unit testing? In this method, all the lines should be tested. That is the main reason of unit testing. So as you told, if I keep, if welcome message not equal to null, then only call this method. If this message is not equal to null, then only call this method. Okay. Then what is the use of unit testing now? What is the use of unit testing? What is the main reason for unit testing? In this method, all the lines are working as expected or not. I want to test it. If I keep a condition like this, this line will never execute. In the unit testing, this line will execute or will not execute. I want to see how that line is executing. I want to see how that line is executing. I will tell you one more scenario. If I write, I'm writing one method, public, some REST API method I'm writing, get data. Okay. In this method, I'm getting some data from the third party REST API. Some citizen CIBIL score I am getting. Citizen CIBIL score I am getting. Okay. Now I'm getting this CIBIL score by using REST template dot get with third party URL. Are you getting my point? Now, based on this CIBIL score, CCB logic, I'm having 40 lines of code. So this is my method. In this method, I'm accessing a third-party REST API by using REST template. I'm getting the citizen CIBIL score. Based on the citizen CIBIL score, I'm executing 40 lines of code. Now, when I'm doing the unit testing, this REST API not available. The third-party REST API not available. So as the third-party REST API not available, what is the output I'm getting? Null value. When this is a null value, if you do like this, if CCB not equal to null, then only execute this 40 lines of code. Then when your 40 lines of code will execute, if it is not null, but I'm getting null value, then is there any use of unit testing for this method? These lines will execute or will not execute. What is the purpose of unit testing? I want to see how those lines are executing. Are you getting my point? So unit testing main reason, you test all the lines of your code to understand that behavior, how each line will execute in the real time. To understand that behavior, we are going to perform unit testing. Now, without a null check only, I want to complete this method execution properly. If I do null check, there is no use. What is the other option? What is the other option? Simple example. Yesterday I told you one example, Shah Rukh Khan example. Mock Shah Rukh Khan will be available. What mock Shah Rukh Khan will do? Dupe. So he will follow same mannerism like a Shah Rukh Khan or not? How Shah Rukh Khan style will be available, how that swag will be available, that walking style, okay, the dancing style, he will copy exact same. Similarly, when in the movie, when the movie director is there, he will tell you, this movie is a double action for the Shah Rukh Khan. One real two Shah Rukh Khans are not available. Only one Shah Rukh Khan is available. They will identify the dupe for the Shah Rukh Khan. So the person who is going to act as a Shah Rukh Khan dupe, that person will observe the Shah Rukh Khan for 1 week of time, how he is walking, what is his lip movement, what is his style. He will observe and he will try to replicate the same thing while acting in the movie. So similarly, when we are creating the mock objects, our mock objects also should return some data, how the real methods are returning. Okay, what this real method is doing? What is this real method is doing? It is returning some message. Here, my mock method also should return some message instead of null value. Then we will not get the null pointer exception. Are you getting my point? So how, whenever I call the real method will return some message. My mock method also should return some dummy message. Instead of the real message, return some dummy message. You got the point? How the mock method will return the dummy message? Here there is a point. Define mock object behavior. What I will tell is, when somebody call service dot get welcome message, then return some dummy data. Okay, so this is called defining the behavior for mock object. So in this unit testing, I have created mock bean for the service. And what is the, can you read this English statement, guys? And this is simple English statement, just read that. What is the meaning of that? When somebody call service dot get welcome message method by using mock object, then return dummy text. Then return dummy text. So real service method will return welcome to Ashok IT. Mock service method will return dummy text. Are you guys getting my point? Now, Here I'm telling return good evening. When the here, what is the meaning of service? Is it a real service object or it is a mock service object? Mock service. So what I'm doing, when mock service dot get welcome message is called, then you return good evening as a text. What the real service is returning? Welcome to Ashok IT. What I am telling to the mock object, when you called, when somebody call your method, you return good evening as a message. So like this, when we are going for mocking, we need to create the mock object. For the mock object, we need to set the behavior also. When we are going for the mock object, we need to set the behavior also for the mock object. Are you able to follow this? Now, can we do the testing? Right click, debug as JUnit test. How many of you feeling it is difficult? Easy or difficult? Understandable? So what is line number 32? What is line number 32? When the service method is called, then return good evening as a message. So service is a variable. That variable belongs to real service or it is belongs to mock service? Okay. Then line number 34. What is line number 34? Creating get request with the /welcome. Then what is line number 36? Mock MVC that perform, send the request and return some value, F6. It is going to the REST controller. Now, REST controller, service object, service dot get welcome message, real service or mock service? Why mock service? Because it is unit test. The request came from the browser or request came from the test class? From the test class. When the request coming from the test class, which object is injected? Mock object is injected. F6. What is the message coming now? That means this message coming from the real service, it is coming from the mock service. If how can you say it is mock service? Real service will give welcome to Ashok IT. But in the mock service, I'm telling to return good evening. So I'm getting the response as a good evening. That means it is a mock. That means my REST controller method is talking to mock service method for the unit testing purpose. So in the real time, we are going to implement mocking for the unit testing. When your class method is dependent on the another class method, you need to inject mock object. For that mock object, you need to define the behavior and you need to test your target logic. So our main agenda, test the REST controller. But REST controller dependent on the service. I created mock for the service. For the mock service, I defined dummy behavior. That dummy behavior I'm getting now. Now F6. What is happening? Am I getting null pointer exception or not coming? Not coming because mock object is returning some dummy text. With that dummy text, my remaining logic can be tested. Why I am returning the dummy data? The main agenda, after this service method is executed, how my REST controller logic will execute, I want to test it. Here same scenario. Once I got the CIBIL score from the third party API, 40 lines of code is available. So with this response, how this logic will execute, that is our main target. Okay. So here real service is not available. Then what I will do? I will mock REST template. I will mock the REST template. I will return dummy score. With that dummy score, I will test the remaining logic. So that is the main purpose of unit testing. Your method is dependent on the other method. Other method response, you assume the response of the other method and you test your logic. That is unit testing. Okay. Now it is returning dummy message. With that, go to our test class. Go to our test class. We are getting response from this REST API. Dummy response we got. With that response, what is the status code I'm getting now? 200. What is the meaning of that? Success. My REST controller method is executing successfully without real service also. With a mock service, I'm able to execute my REST controller. Are you able to understand my code? Yes. Now, like this, for every dependent object, you need to create a mock object. For that mock object, you need to define the behavior and you need to send a request to your REST controller. You get the response and you validate that response. Either you can validate the content or you can validate the status. Suppose I want to get the content. How can I get the content? Response dot get content as string. Response dot get content as string. System dot out dot println content as string. So what is the real response I'm getting from the REST API method I want to print it? Now see this, run as JUnit test. It is executing. Now, am I getting the real response from the REST API? Am I able to print that response? So this response is coming from real service method or this response coming from mock service method? Mock service method. Good evening. If it is a real service, if I run my application now, if I'm running my boot application and if I send the request from the browser, what is this? I'm getting welcome to Ashok IT. If I'm getting welcome to Ashok IT, that means REST controller talking to real service. If I'm getting the good evening message, that means it is talking to mock service. Are you able to follow this? Good. Now look at this diagram. REST controller dependent on the service, but it will not execute the real service. For the service, one mock object is created. That mock object is injected to REST controller. Whenever we test REST controller will communicate with the mock service method. Mock service method will give some dummy response. With the dummy response, REST controller will be executed. That's it. So this is called unit testing with mocking. Unit testing with mocking. Any questions, anyone? What is unit testing, guys? The process of testing individual components of our application is called as unit testing. So unit testing we will perform in the isolation manner. What is the meaning of isolation unit testing? What is the meaning of isolated unit testing? We are going to test only particular method. But if your method is dependent on the another method, mock we need to create. How do we create that mock? Mock bean. Okay, mock bean. Next, what is pending? Code coverage. Jacaco. We need to add the Jacaco to understand code coverage. That means, are we performing the unit testing properly or not? How many lines of code is covered in the unit testing? We need to generate code coverage report. Industry standard for the code coverage. Industry standard for the code coverage. 80% of code coverage is available. 80% of code coverage is available. That percentage is required. How do we get that code coverage report? To get the code coverage report, guys, we need to add one plugin in the pom.xml. We need to add one plugin in the pom.xml. So here, build section available. In the build section, plugins available. We need to add a plugin to generate code coverage report. Okay. Now, so let me check it. Jacaco plugin. That plugin configuration I need to do. This is plugin configuration, guys. Okay. So here already boot maven plugin is available and we need to add one more plugin which is called Jacaco plugin. You see here, this is the plugin I'm adding in my pom.xml. I'm adding this plugin in the pom.xml. Save this one. Okay, I'm saving this plugin now. Go to this, right click. Currently in the target folder, anything is available here, guys. Nothing is available in the target folder. Currently in this project target folder, anything available or nothing is available? Nothing is available. Go to here in this workspace, security workspace, JUnit, unit test application. Okay, this is my project, guys. This project is available, path of the project. Okay, SBMS 36 security workspace. Now go to that location. Project available here. In this project target, is there anything available in the target? Nothing. Now right click on this project, run as Maven test goal. So Maven test goal. What is the meaning of Maven test goal? Unit testing I need to perform. Maven test goal means I need to perform unit testing. So here my Jacaco is added at which phase? Test phase. Jacaco plugin I am adding at the test phase. That means if you do Maven test, if you execute Maven test goal, Jacaco plugin will be executed, which will generate code coverage report for the project. Okay. Now right click on this application, run as Maven test. Check the console. It is downloading required dependencies. Test is happening. Unit testing is happening. Test is successful. Total how many tests ran? 4 tests are executed. Jacaco report is also generated. Finally, project build got success. Now go here. Inside the target, can you see one folder called site folder created? So inside the target site folder created, this is our unit testing application. Site folder created. Go to site folder. There is a folder called Jacaco. Go to that. There is a file called index.html. Open this index.html with our browser. This is our code coverage report. So how much percentage is covered now? How much percentage is covered now? Total we are able to get the 79% of coverage. 79% of coverage available. In the REST controller, how much coverage is there? There is only one method. I tested that method. But in the service class, I have not tested service method. Only I have tested REST controller. So that's why I'm getting 100%. Go to the REST controller class. There is a method. All the lines are coming in the green color. What is the meaning of that lines in the green color? They are participated in the unit testing. When I test my method, those lines are executed in the unit testing. That's why they are coming in the green color. Now, let me do one thing. Let me add another method in the REST controller and let us see this. Here, what is the method available? Welcome message method is available. Now, let me add one method called greet message method. Let me add one method called greet message method. Greet is the URL for that method. Greet is the URL for that method. Okay. Now, greet message, something like this. Greet message, and greet message. Go to service class. Now, get welcome message. Now I will write get a greet message. I'm going to return good evening. I'm going to return this response as a good evening response. One is welcome message, another one is greet message. Coming to the REST controller, welcome method is available, greet method is available. But I'm doing unit testing for how many methods, guys? Unit testing is done for one method or unit testing is done for all the methods? Only one method. Currently, what is the coverage for the REST controller? 100% or not? What is the coverage for the REST controller? 100%. Open that class, open that class. Why everything is coming in this green color? All these lines are tested. I have executed my test method. That's why all the lines are coming in the green color. Now, let me run this test again. Right click on this project, run as Maven test. I'm doing the Maven test again because I modified the code in the project. I want to see code coverage now. Build success. Go to the browser. Now refresh it. What is the coverage? Increased or decreased? Why decreased? Earlier only one method. For that method testing is completed. JUnit is available for that method. But now two methods available. But out of these two methods, only one method is tested. Now you see earlier REST controller having more 100%. Now it is having 66%. Go to this package, open this class, You see the clear difference now. Some lines are in the green color, some lines are in the red color. What is the difference between that green color and red color? Green color lines are unit tested, red color lines are not unit tested. So in the company project also, this report will be generated. They will understand your unit testing is having the quality or does not have the quality. How they will understand? They will open your class. They will see which lines are tested, which lines are not tested. Are you able to follow me? Now, how to improve this coverage now? How to improve this coverage? 61%. Industry standard or not industry standard? Not industry standard. Then what to do? Remove that method? No. Then what we need to do? To improve the coverage, are we going to remove the methods from the controller? No. For that method also, we need to write the unit testing. Okay. Can we do a unit testing for that method also? Yes. To improve the coverage, don't delete the code. Right. So this is testing for only welcome. Now I want to do the testing for the greet also. Okay. So before testing the greet, what is the REST package coverage? 66% only. Now let us write one more test method. Can you tell me the logic now? Public void test greet message. So before testing, define the mock behavior. Okay. When the greet method is called by using service, return some dummy data. How to define the mock behavior? When service dot get greet message is called, then you return some dummy text. You return some dummy text. Now send the request for the greet URL. How to send the request for the greet URL? Mock MVC request builders dot get off mock MVC request builders dot get off / greet. Okay, I got the request object. Now what we will do with this? Request object is available. Mock MVC dot perform this request and return value. What is the return value? MVC result. We are going to get the MVC result. Let me get that MVC result. I'm getting the MVC result. What we will do with the result now? Result dot get response. From this response, what I'm going to get? Response dot get status. Now, how to verify status is 200 or not? Set equals expected value 200, actual value status. How to represent this is a test method? By using @test. So with this line, with this method, what will happen? Greet method logic will be tested. Welcome method logic also will be tested. Are you able to understand? Yes. Good. Now let's go here and run this project. Run as MVN test, which is a Maven test goal. Earlier we had 61% overall. REST controller is having 66%. Overall percentage 61 only. Build is failed. Greet message is null. Define the mock behavior, return dummy text. Message REST controller. Okay. What is the problem? We need to call the greet message method. I don't want to debug now. Leave it. Directly, I want to execute Maven test goal. Why Maven test? I want to see coverage report. Right click on the project, run as Maven test. Maven test is executing. Maven test is executed. Build got success. Clear this one. Okay. Now refresh. Percentage increased or not? From 61 now we got the 74. In the REST controller, what is this? 100% available. Go to this REST controller. Open the REST controller. Now see this. Earlier welcome message having green color, greet method having red color. Now both are coming to green color. Why both are coming to green color now? Both methods are tested in the unit testing. So tell me, what is code coverage now? What is code coverage now? What is code coverage? The process of identifying which lines of code is covered in the unit testing, which lines of code is not covered in the unit testing. That is called code coverage. How we are getting the code coverage? By using a plugin called Jacoco plugin. By using Jacoco plugin, we are able to get code coverage report of our application. So in the industry, the standard is minimum 80% of coverage is required for our application. Okay, good. Unit testing for boot application. Let me push this code into Git repository, guys. Okay, guys, fine. I have pushed my project into Git repository. In this project, our unit testing logic is available. Let me give this Git repository URL. Spring Boot REST API, JUnit application with the mocking, with the Jacoco, the project that I have developed today, the REST controller with the service, with the mocking, with the Jacoco plugin, everything I have added in my GitHub repository. Repository URL I'm giving in the notes. So please do this practice before coming to tomorrow session. Okay, I'm uploading these notes. Yes, done guys. So with this, we are able to understand what is unit testing, what is mocking, and what is code coverage, how to get the code coverage report by using Jacoco. Please do this practice before coming to tomorrow's session. Okay, fine guys. Thank you. Any questions, anyone? We need to write again. Yeah, for service class tomorrow we will write that. Okay, for now we have done the unit testing for only REST controller method. Now service method is not tested. There is no unit testing. That's why in the code coverage report, what is coming for the service class methods? So if you go to this one, if you see here, for the service method, what is coming? 27% only we are getting. If you open this service class, these methods are executed or not executed. That's why this is very less percentage. Because of this, we are getting the less percentage. Tomorrow, we will do the unit testing for this service method also. So that we will try to reach 100% coverage. But getting 100% is not, sometimes may not be possible. That's why minimum 80% we have to achieve. Okay, good. Tomorrow we will complete that unit testing part for the service layer also. Okay. Day after tomorrow, guys, we will work on resume preparation, either Wednesday or Thursday. Tomorrow is Wednesday, right? Maybe Thursday or Friday, we will be having a class on resume preparation, how to prepare our resume as a fresher, how to prepare as an experienced person, I will understand. And what about project? Where you are? I have given the database tables also. I have given the screens also. Where you are? What is the status of it? कुछ नहीं हो रहा. Nothing is going on. Huh? You are waiting for me to complete, huh? What is the progress? It's been almost 3 weeks of time, right? You understood what is the project requirement? I have given the sample screens also for you, and I have given the database tables also. What's stopping you to develop the project? I want to check it, how much you have completed. I think people forget about the project. JRTP people, you have the screens, you have the database tables, you have the requirement also. I'm hoping you will try to complete the requirement. Next 1 month, you will be very busy. Angular classes will start from next Monday. AWS Linux classes will be there, and parallelly project implementation you have to do. Now you have only 1 class per day. Morning class is not there for boot. Only JRTP class is happening for you now. From Monday, Angular classes will be available for you. Online batch will be there for the Angular. Okay. And I will take Linux and AWS classes for you. UI part, the other faculty will take Angular from next Monday evening at 7 p.m. Okay. You can attend from here or you can attend from hostel also. I suggest you to attend from here. Right? Good. Parallelly, we will learn Angular and AWS topics. Both are independent. Okay. 5:30 to 6:30 or 7 o'clock, we will discuss about the AWS and Linux classes. Then you will have the Angular class also parallelly. Okay. Cool. All right, guys. Good. Thank you. With this, I'm stopping for today. Will meet again in the tomorrow session. Notes is uploaded in the website for the practice. Whatever we have done today, guys, remember, unit testing is not easy. Unit testing is not easy. Lot of thinking is required. Please do the practice of this application. Tomorrow we will complete the remaining part in the unit testing. Thank you, guys.